In this WrestleTalk news, is CM Punk's injury worse than originally thought? More signs and signals that Sasha is going to be returning to WWE, and loads more, so subscribe and enable notifications to always on for daily wrestling news videos.
Support WrestleTalk!
So CM Punk has had a rough old time of it. He won the AEW World Championship at Double or Nothing from Hangman Page in May. That's actually not that rough. But then immediately had to take time out for surgery to repair a broken foot. That's rough, buddy. AEW officials made the decision to allow Punk to keep the title while he was out and instead crown an interim champion, which Jon Moxley eventually became. And while it's previously been said by Tony Khan that he can't rule out Punk returning in time for All Out in September and that he's not behind on his recovery, new news from rumor wrangler Dave Meltzer makes that seem a little bit less likely, because on Wrestling Observer Radio, Melt said that Punk was hurting pretty bad as of 2 weeks ago, and it seems doubtful that he would be returning to the company in time for All Out. Now that doesn't necessarily rule out an appearance by Punk at the show, but likely means that in-ring action is still out of the question, sadly. But the thing is, All Out at this point is still a month away, so let's just see how things progress, I guess. On to another hotly debated wrestling return, and this one has a few more twists in the tail. Yeah, we're talking about Sasha Banks again, who has been AWOL since walking out of Raw in May with Naomi, and by all accounts was said to be leaving the company, having been removed from internal rosters, taking bookings for non-wrestling appearances throughout the rest of the year, but then there was also nothing publicly announced about her actually having gone. Now that Triple H has taken over creative and talent relations and Stephanie McMahon is at the head of the table having invented women, speculation was pointing to the company attempting to lure the boss back. Sasha the boss. Not Vince the boss. I think they're just telling Vince, I'm sorry, the revolving doors don't come back into the building, Vince. They don't work that way. Once you're out, you're out. And that's the thing, that story keeps gaining traction as time goes on. For instance, Banks was advertised under her real name, Mercedes Varnado, to participate in the Team Donald versus Team Ramsey celebrity flag football game to be held tonight. But updated rosters for the game put out over social media no longer list Banks as taking part. And why do you think that might be? What happens on a Friday night, guys? That's right, a smacky D time, or as Pete calls it, sad time. Now, the Ramsey's official website still has Banks listed as a member of Team Donald, but that could be due to it not having been updated. We've all left stuff on the internet that is not updated. The social media posts certainly seem more up to date overall. Now, several wrestlers have also reported that Banks and Naomi have both reached an agreement to return to WWE, so let's see tonight. Because either way, SmackDown's going to be a really interesting watch as the first one post SummerSlam in the Triple H era of creative. Such exciting times in wrestling. I never thought I'd say it.
Before we get on with the rest of the video, I'd just like to say a big thank you to this episode's sponsor, Surfshark VPN, which you can get 83% off and 3 months free if you go to surfshark.deals/WrestleTalk and use the code WrestleTalk. Surfshark VPN lets you trick your device into thinking it's in another country, which opens up a whole new world of content libraries. If you're in the UK, you can watch US Netflix, which has a far bigger selection of movies. If you're outside the UK, you can watch the BBC iPlayer. And if you're in the US, you can finally get access back to the old WWE network with its far superior functionality. I hate change. We've all been using Surfshark here at WrestleTalk for years now. It's our official VPN. And it doesn't just let us gain access to all the wrestling, it also secures our networks by encrypting internet traffic, keeping our location and download history private. My collection of ultra swole Pokemon must be protected at all costs. And my favorite feature for this is that Surfshark knows when my phone leaves a trusted connection like my home or work internet, and it immediately turns on to prevent interference. It's like having a babyface wrestling faction for your phone. So sign up to Surfshark today by clicking our link in the video description below, surfshark.deals/WrestleTalk, where you'll get 83% off and 3 months free if you use the code WrestleTalk. We'd really appreciate if you at least check them out, as they're a great company and we love working with them. Support WrestleTalk and support your internet privacy with Surfshark.
Now, one of the things that Triple H should be overseeing as head of talent relations once more is bringing in that new crop of talent to the company, which, while he was away recovering from his cardiac event, WWE just decided to fundamentally change. First of all, they decided to concentrate on hiring athletes from other disciplines and then just train them up in pro wrestling, rather than looking to the independent circuit for good workers with a little bit of fame. They also launched the Next in Line /NIL/Name and Likeness program, which aims to work with college athletes to create this pathway between their college sporting and a career in WWE. The first major signing of that was Olympic gold medalist Gable Steveson, but the company signed up multiple others, one of which was Oklahoma State University amateur wrestler AJ Ferrari, who has just been arrested on a felony charge of sexual battery. You don't half know how to pick 'em, WWE. Now, the sexual assault claim was made against Ferrari on July 2nd, and an unnamed woman filed a protective order against him on July the 5th. Amidst the investigation, Ferrari was dismissed from the Oklahoma State wrestling team, although according to Pistol's firing, a source claimed that this was also the result of an accumulation of issues. Now, according to PW Insider, the Payne County Sheriff's Office in Oklahoma lists Albert James Ferrari as having been bonded out of jail last night, which suggests that in order to be bonded, he would have had to have been arrested. At this point in time, WWE have not made any comment on the matter. WWE, though, are usually very quick to make the snip if they decide they want to distance themselves from one of their talents. They're not exactly gun-shy when it comes to firings either. But apparently, there is some sort of method to that madness. Is there? Sorry, that's according to WWE Senior Vice President James Kimball, who spoke to Bleacher Report about the philosophy behind the WWE developmental program. He said, "We come into each tryout week with gaps that need to be filled. At that 2-year mark, if you've not made it onto NXT TV on a regular basis, it's just not for you, and it's not for us." Kimball also noted that evaluations come every 6 months and that the company is trying to prevent bottlenecks in developmental by not signing too many people of the same height, weight, and build, instead opting for a variety of body types with the limited spaces for new signees. And absolutely no bottlenecks. It's weird, it makes you look like an alien. Why is your head so small? Kimball went on to explain that our goal is to add volume, quality, and depth to developmental. Coming into this week with 110 talents in developmental, the goal at the end of this year is 130, and the sweet spot for us long term is around 150. He said that during the pandemic, the developmental roster sank to 90 talents, and the main focus right now is on replenishing that roster of stars. I mean, it definitely sank low because you released a load of people. Some of them you even had to beg to come back, like Dakota Kai, what is this? But while the changes so far in the post-Vince era seem positive, not everyone is utterly convinced that old man WWE is actually gone, because like a spectre in the weight room, a ghost at the firings, he's always there. One such person who thinks Vince will have a hand in the company going forward is Bobby Lashley, who told ESPN, "It's not like Vince isn't going to be there anymore. He's not going to just let his baby that he's grown to this level just falter, so he's still going to be there. He's just giving other people opportunities to keep pressing on." Before we crack on with the rest of the episode, we just need to thank Charles, Dope, Homer, and the Kessel Run DX Solo for their support on Patreon, and my Homer impression is terrible. With Vince out of the picture, plenty of people are giving their thoughts on your various podcasts and your websites about what they thought of the man and his role in the company. And with the ghost of Vince McMahon still hanging around the place, most of it is positive. Now, Paul Heyman, for one, gave Vince McMahon his credit for his work ethic and creating such a globally powerful business in an interview with the MacMania podcast. He said, "I have absolutely nothing bad to say about Vince McMahon. What a hypocrite I would be to say anything less than an extraordinarily complimentary thing about that man. His work ethic, his willingness to put in 20 to 22 hours a day, every day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year for 40 years is why we are all fabulously wealthy, and he will never get the credit nor the understanding that he deserves and that he earned." There you go, Heyman, a consummate wrestling professional, as this proves. But he did say that he was excited by the new folks in charge, adding, fully supportive of the new regime, they understand the task at hand, and the people that are involved right now at steering the ship were prepared to steer this ship by Vince McMahon, which makes me very comfortable in their vision and their hopes and dreams and desires and their new vision, which should not be Vince's vision, it should be their vision. But the thing about that new vision and what makes it so exciting is that it's already begun in earnest. We've already had stars like Ali and Ciampa get showcase time on Raw, Becky Lynch teasing that she's going to go back to being the man, Dakota Kai and Io Sky joining up with Bayley at SummerSlam, which apparently was a very late decision for that show. Because according to PW Insider, things only came together for the faction and their debut very late in the day. For one, Io Sky's new ring name was only trademarked on July 31st, the day after SummerSlam, which is really unusual for WWE, who like to trademark their roster's names long before they debut, and we report on it trying to guess who that's going to be. Bayley too was not in the original plans for the show back when Vince was planning it and neither was Dakota Kai because she wasn't even bloody working there. PW Insider confirmed that while Kai's non-compete clause had long since elapsed, she was reportedly contacted at the very last minute to travel to Nashville before arriving in town for the show the night before. Kai herself admitted that the deal came together quickly while appearing on the bump this week. One final bit of news, and this one's about AEW signing yet another name, because according to Fightful Select, the company has reached an agreement to sign Blake Christian, with the agreement specifically tied to Ring of Honor. Now, Fightful sources said talk of the agreement was heard this past weekend at Starrcast, where Christian was active all weekend. He worked Ric Flair's last match, New Japan's Music City Mayhem, and the People vs. GCW, where he challenged Jon Moxley for the GCW World Championship. Now, Fightful haven't been able to confirm whether Christian's deal is written or tiered, but it is interesting to see that Tony Khan is beginning to flesh out his ROH roster in anticipation of getting a TV deal. Have a good weekend, everyone. See you next week. In this WrestleTalk news, MJF has vanished from the wrestling scene, AEW signed a new coach, and Pete's going to be here reviewing AEW Dynamite, so subscribe and enable notifications to Always On for daily wrestling news videos.